Hello and welcome back to the 12th man. Just before we start, I want to wish everyone that's been watching a very happy Christmas. I hope it's a good one. I know it's very different this year. Obviously, a lot going on in the world with the coronavirus pandemic. Obviously, where we are here in Northern Ireland as well, we're going on the lockdown now on Boxing Day for the next 6 weeks. Let's hope it is only 6 weeks, but I do think it could be longer. There's obviously this new coronavirus strain now as well. And there's going to be a lot more cases now in January, and it could take maybe a couple of months to get a grip on it. That's very different this year. Christmas for me, it's felt very very different because usually my gran and granddad will come down for dinner, or we go up to them to visit them and stuff, and that's obviously not happened this year. They're obviously high risk, and they're in the house isolating. So I am sure there's loads of other people that's on the same boat. One thing that I can say, I've been very fortunate that no one in my family has been really sick over Christmas, or has had it so far. So that's one positive. But I know there's loads and loads of people that obviously have lost family, or maybe have family at the moment, or suffering. So very very different for us this year. And I wish everyone that is maybe feeling sick or has had coronavirus casualties all the best for 2021. So before we start, football will still be going on. People might have different opinions on it. I'm glad it is going on. There does seem to be a lot of testing going on at the moment in football. I think the players can test it now once a week. It's in some areas it's 3 times a week. So again, there's a lot more safety measures in place. Now we have seen 2 Man City players tested positive today. It was Gabriel Jesus and Kyle Walker. So obviously very for the next 2 weeks. I think the only way it will stop football and the Premier League is if there is complete cases galore, and it becomes very very difficult to get games played. But fingers crossed that doesn't happen. Now, obviously, in Northern Ireland, there's a lockdown. So I think for the first week of it, all sport in Northern Ireland, that's including like the Northern Irish Premier League, is cancelled just for this first week. But after the 2nd of January, I think they will be going back to playing football. Obviously, I'm a coach at Maiden City, so I know my football's going to be off for at least them 6 weeks because we're not classified as elite level. Disappointing because, kids were probably still going to be at school. So we think if they're on school mixing, surely they can play sport, but you can understand why this has happened as well. Now, coming up on tonight's show, we're going to be looking back at Liverpool, massive 7-0 victory against Crystal Palace. We're going to get into that and discuss how good it was. We're going to be looking at Manchester United's performance against Leeds as well. They won 6-2. There's a lot of talk around the sort of Premier League at the moment of them being Liverpool's potential closest challengers. We're going to look at that as well. We're going to be looking at Spurs again. Very very disappointing performance from them last week against Leicester. Just looked like they had no real plan B. So we're looking at them, and we'll also be looking at Arsenal as well, where Mikel Arteta, it just hasn't. It's another bad defeat and another, defeat. Like that mounts pressure to his job. How long longer can it go on? We're also going to be looking ahead to the Boxing Day fixtures, giving you my predictions for them. So a lot to get into. So grab yourself a drink and enjoy the rest of the show. So one place to start for me was Liverpool's 7-0 victory against Crystal Palace. Obviously, I had Callum on the show here last week. He's a Liverpool fan, and we really thought it would be a tight game. Palace away, never an easy place to go. Liverpool have actually probably had some struggles against Palace over the last 4 or 5 years. Sort of been like their bogey team at times. Maybe not so much over the last year or so, but there has been times where they've went there and they've lost or they drew, and then at home as well. I think they're the last team to beat them at Anfield. So it's always going to be a tricky game, I thought. Sort of first 20 minutes of it, Liverpool obviously got their early goal in the first couple of minutes. Minamino scored, but it was a game of basketball teams. Crystal Palace were very, very open. They went for it. Obviously, when you lose 7-0, it doesn't look like a great decision, but in them first 20 minutes, there was definitely chances for them to score. It's like the final pass was killing them. Really, really poor decision making at times. Liverpool looked a bit shaky at the back, but once they got that second goal, I have to say it was really, really impressive. Some of the football and some of the finishing, it's as good as I can ever remember in a Premier League game. It was really, really good. And just personally, as a football fan, obviously a lot of people have been saying, Spurs Liverpool title challenge, sort of played it down a lot, but and I wasn't sitting there sort of hoping Liverpool would lose and stuff. But personally, for me, watching that game, I really, really enjoyed seeing Liverpool play like that. Obviously, as a football fan, it was brilliant to watch. And as long as the game went on, it just looked like there was going to be a lot more goals. Palace really needed the whistle towards the end. Now, people will look at tactics and people see, you look at Leeds and you look at Palace, the way they went about the games, and you look at the way maybe Spurs is playing very defensive, these other teams are attacking. If they're trying to get that balance, Crystal Palace really had no balance in the game. So for me, people say, "Oh, they had a go," but when you lose 7-0, I think it was Roy Hodgson that said himself, it was humiliating. So it's about trying to find that balance. And for me, there was very little balance in the way they went about it. They left that midfield wide open. And when the ball came on to Alexa Henderson, he was picking passes to Salah, Mane, and Minamino, who played. Or sorry, not Salah, Mane, or Minamino, and Firmino. Sorry, and then Salah come on in the second half for Mane. But we've got players like that, and they've got so much space. And some of the play was very good, but Palace didn't half help them with the chances they gave them. So it was very poor from Palace the way they went about the game, in my opinion. But you can't take the hunt away from Liverpool because they were really, really strong and their finishing. And it was great to see Firmino back to his best as well. He's obviously took a bit of criticism, mainly from Liverpool fans. I don't think all our fans have been sort of criticising him, but I think they were saying he needs to step up. He got that big goal against Spurs, and he's got 2 goals against Palace there. So great to see him being back amongst the goals now. You look at that and you think, is that a performance of champions? What I would say was it was a really, really mark around the rest. Like, they just beat Spurs and then just went like thrash Palace. But at the same time, they're not miles clear. They're only 4 points clear. So for me, you can't really say, that's the performance that's going to make them going to win the league. There's still a lot more work to be done. And despite winning 7-0, you do only get 3 points for it. Liverpool lost 7 to Villa. It was just 1 defeat, and they're still top of the league. So one game doesn't make you champions, but it was a real marker put down, in my opinion. And it would be interesting to see now if they can go on a 1-1 of games. And they've only lost 1 game, but there has been a lot of draws, especially away from home. So it'll be interesting now if they can get on that. If they start winning games away from home the way they're winning them at home, it'll be very difficult to stop. For me, they're still the best team in the league. I said at the start of the season, I still fancy them to win it again. Obviously, with the injury to Van Dijk, and Gomez at the back as well, it was big injuries. They've had a couple of other injuries in there, but they weren't as serious as them two. It probably give everyone else probably false hope, to be honest, because they still, even if you take out them players, they still have, for me, the best squad in the league, and I would expect them to win it anyway. But what I will say is, what is impressive is they haven't really let the Van Dijk injuries or Gomez injuries get to them. They look like if them players didn't play for them, it's as if you wouldn't need them missing. So they've done really, really well without them, and it is very impressive. I don't think there's any other team in the league could cope with that kind of injuries at the back. If Man City were to lose Diaz on the port, Spurs were to lose Dyer, if Chelsea were to lose Thiago Silva, I don't think they will be able to recover the way Liverpool have, and that is what we'll say. The mentality of the team is incredible, and you have to give Jurgen Klopp praise. And I have sort of spoke vocally about him before. I think there is times where he does sort of make excuses if things don't go their way, but the majority of the time you have to give him credit. He's been absolutely brilliant since he's come to Liverpool. The last couple of years he went to a new level, and it's scary for the rest of the league, I have to say. I can't be biased about it at all. They are looking like they could dominate this league for the next few years. Man City are obviously in decline, and when you're in decline, it is difficult to try and get back to the level you're at, because I spoke about it before, trying to replace Lux Company and David Silva, Aguero, now when he leaves, Fernandinho, very difficult because they are world-class players. And it's not always a guarantee that you're going to go out and replace them with world-class players. So for me, there's a lot of work to be done from the teams I'm behind. And, that'll be the big concern for the rest of the league. It's not even just this year. How can we try and stop Liverpool for the next couple of years as well? So a lot of teams, I think it was Steve McManaman said that the big teams are very ominous about Liverpool. And I have to agree, because they are looking really, really strong at the moment. I'm just going to share the screen feeds here 1 second. This. Now, one topic that come up around Liverpool this week was that Gary Neville, there's been rumours about Mo Salah possibly going to Real Madrid. Now, if you look at this here, the 2 boys spoke about it Monday night. It was Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher on Monday Night Football. Mo Salah. I think Gary Neville said he expects him to leave. He was saying, I said it a couple of years ago, and it was perhaps a bit premature, but I always had that feeling he would want to go and explore. And he sort of thinks that he's a lot colder than Mane and Firmino, for example. He's a lot more self-centered. If he's in, for example, you see a lot of times he'll not be square the ball, he'll try and go for a goal. And there's nothing wrong with that, as he's saying here. You need someone that's going to be selfish as well to score goals. But he's got 2.5 years left in his contract. Um, and he's just thinking maybe Salah might think it's time for a change, and he will want to go to Spain and play football. I think I'm torn on it because I sort of agree with Kjaer. I think Kjaer said he doesn't think it'll happen, um, and he said that because he, when Ronaldo left Manchester United for Real Madrid were like that top sort of side in the world. Even when Gareth Bale left Spurs, Madrid tended to get a player, wanted a player, they tend to get them. I'm not sure that is the case anymore. For me, Liverpool are probably the best team in the world, along with Bayern Munich. So it would almost be like a step down if Salah was to be going to Real Madrid now. He has got 2.5 years left. The only reason I could see him possibly wanting to leave is if he thinks, well, I've won the Premier League at Liverpool, I've won the Champions League at Liverpool, he might want a new challenge. But at the same time, would he really want to play in a weaker team? I'm not so sure he would. So it is one to keep an eye on. I'm sure Liverpool fans are probably thinking he won't leave. I don't think they'll be panicking about it. But it's the type of thing you only lose a player like Salah, as I said, by Man City. Not easy to replace the likes of Salah. You look at his goal record since he came to Liverpool. It's been absolutely fantastic. Premier League, Champions League, big games he scores on. It would not be an easy player to replace. So that is definitely one that Liverpool fans will want to keep. I'm sure now at the end of the season it will be under discussion because at the same time Liverpool will be trying to get a new contract, I would imagine, because if it does get to summer, 2 years in his contract, they won't want that run down to 18 months and then possibly down to 12 months because as he would lose value as a player if his contract's not secure. And Liverpool, if they are going to sell him, I'm sure they'll want to try and get as much money from him as they can. And to be honest, they are quite a good team that do get fees. You look at the money they got for Coutinho when he went to Barcelona. So they are a really well-run club, Liverpool. So I would be surprised if we didn't probably find out a bit more about Salah in the next 6 months. Come the summer, I'm sure there'll be some sort of decision made. Where if you're not going to sign, then possibly you're going to have to try and sell on. So it is one to keep an eye on now towards the summer. Moving on this week. Sorry, 1 second. I need to drink here. Moving on, Manchester United, massive victory against Liverpool. Sorry, Liverpool Leeds. 6-2 victory. And I have to say that I was really, really impressed with this as well. In terms of they probably didn't dominate the game the way Liverpool dominated Crystal Palace. So you could probably just say it wasn't as good as that. But they watch, it was just as good for me. I think United are coming on their really hot streak. I've seen this before with United teams, even towards the end of the last season. They went on a great run of games. They tend to do this. You look when Ollie came in for a job, he went on a great run as well. But it's just whether they can sustain it now over the course of the season. For me, you look at their form since January, so you're almost taking on the calendar year of 2020. I think they're only behind Liverpool by 2 or 3 points. So if they can sustain that between now and May, there's no reason why they can't challenge them. Now, they're 5 points behind at the moment, but they do have a game in hand. The big issue they have for me around that game in hand is they don't know when it's going to be played. And if you look, I've looked at the fixtures between now and they're out until January. No way TV have organised them, and there's still no sign of that game in hand being played. So it's looking like it's going to be towards the end of the season, and that is a concern because you're always playing catch up. And if they were to lose a game now, for example, and Liverpool won, they'd be 8 points behind. I know they would still have a game in hand, but they're chasing a big points tally. So at the moment, that game in hand is probably counting against them. Now, it is away to Burnley. You would expect them to win it. And their away form's been pretty good. But I think if you ask United fans now, they would really have wanted that. I think if that first game of the season, they would just wish it would have been played. So they had got them 3 points and they were sitting 2 points behind now. They've been a lot more of a stronger position. And it probably sounds like, I'm writing off their chances, but it's just psychologically. They'll still be thinking in their head, we're still 5 points behind, even though they do have that game in hand. But that game in hand is probably not going to be played for another 2 or 3 months. So they're always going to be a game behind. And the way Liverpool are playing at the moment, you're always going to be possibly 5 points behind, even if you keep winning games. So it's going to be a real question of mentality for them if you can keep going and keep going and keep going. My gut tells me they're probably not good enough. Now, if you look at this here as well, where are we at here? Gary Neville was speaking about it as well. He was saying that he doesn't think they'll challenge. He said they still don't look like a team that'll challenge. And I can see why he's saying it, because they're very inconsistent. And not just, you can say they've had a good run of form, but in the games, they've been very inconsistent. Some of the performances in the first half have been awful, and then they've been very, very good in the second half. And for me, that isn't going to be sustainable. There will be, if you have a bad half against a team, they will put 2 or 3 goals past you. And they've been quite fortunate if you look at the games against Southampton and West Ham, they should have been put to bed. Fair play to they hung on there and they really did take their chances when they came in, and they produced maybe a 30 to 45 minute performance in the second half where they ran the other team ragged. But looking at the other teams, there's not a lot of I don't think there's a lot of quality about these teams that are on behind United as well. So I think if you look at it, unless Spurs can sort of get their act together again, and Chelsea can get their act together again, United could be the only team that's going to challenge Liverpool, and that is the concern. If Liverpool my concern would be if Liverpool just keep doing what they're doing and winning games now, and they start turning that away for them when they wins, it's going to be all over by March or April again. Gary Neville was saying he is surprised where they are in the table, because if you thought, and this is, you think about it, only a few weeks ago when they went out of Europe and they lost to Arsenal, everybody was criticising Ollie, criticising United, saying it was going to be a long season. Ollie would be sacked at Christmas and stuff, and now all of a sudden people are saying their title challenges. So it can turn around very quickly. The one thing I would say, and Gary Neville did point out in that game where they did score 6 goals, Leeds really, really suited them. And Leeds are going to suit a lot of the teams the way they're playing this season. So it's definitely not one to get sort of carried away with. But as fans, we can get carried away quite a lot. A lot of United fans, they have a right to be excited. They just beat Leeds 6-2. They're on a good run of form. They're looking at they're only 2 points behind there, and their minds are probably thinking I'm only 2 behind because they have a game in hand. But it doesn't always work out that way, and that's the thing I would like to say to United fans in general. Is don't be getting carried away. At the end of the day, you're still 5 points behind. You're still one defeat maybe away from being 8 or 9 points behind Liverpool, and that'll be a massive gap to try and make back. So just one other sort of point on the game was I thought that Leeds approached the game very, very naively. Now, I've spoke on this podcast so much about how I admire the way Leeds play, but there does, and I spoke about it in the past, there does come a point where you have to try and find a balance. And this is the thing too. Palace got absolutely ridiculed, and people were slagging them and saying they were very poor, and they lost with 7 goals. Well, Leeds were beat by 4 goals. And people were praising them and saying they played well. For me, yes, they had spells in the game where they had possession and they created a couple of chances, but they conceded 6 goals, and United could have scored more. That's not good. And for anyone, I think Martin Tyler was commentating on the game. I've never heard a commentator praise a team for getting beat 6-2 as much as they did with Leeds. So there's ways to go about football matches, and Leeds are where they are in the table for a reason. They're only 3 points out of Arsenal, and everyone's been criticising Arsenal. Now I know Leeds have only come up. They've lost a lot of games and they're conceding loads and loads of goals. So they're not. I don't expect them to get relegated, but they're not out of trouble, and they're going to have to try. If they get them last sort of 5 or 6 games, and they're only sitting a couple of points above relegation, then they're going to have to try and find a different way to win games. Because grand now, when you've got a 15, you can go out and be expressive, but there has to be a point when they come to as well, they have to try and maybe short up at the back a bit and sacrifice a wee bit of that gung-ho approach. Bielsa's obviously been talked up, but he seems to be only have one way of playing, and he's turning football matches into a game of basketball. And the problem with Leeds is as well, they haven't really got the quality forwards that our teams do. So when they play loads of these teams and sort of win the game up, it sort of can sit the other team as well, like at W United. They basically they went toe-to-toe. United have far more quality, and that was why there was such a big scoreline at the end of it. But it was a fascinating game. They will watch as a neutral, but if you're a Leeds fan as well, sure they'll be thinking, right, we need to try and keep it a bit tighter at the back. So yeah, definitely big result for United, and it will be interesting. They've got a big game then Boxing Day against Leicester, who are also sitting in second. I don't know how, because they're so inconsistent as well. That'll be a really big game. I'm going to sort of get on that at the end of the show. I'm doing the predictions. So moving on, Spurs, very disappointing performance, as you know. I'm a Spurs fan. Thought they were going to win this game. Thought they would bounce back from that Liverpool result, but wasn't TV. And I have to say it was very, very poor. Lack of ideas, lack of creativity, and I spoke about it on the show with Callum as well. The one thing that I did fear going into this game was Spurs done a real job in Leicester back in July, beating 3-0 with that counter-attacking style of play. And I just thought we still won the game, but I thought there was no way Rodgers would be as open. And you could see they were a lot tighter. When Spurs did break with a ball, they had a lot more numbers back. They were definitely a lot more harder to break down. And to be honest, Spurs huffed and puffed. Really, they didn't really create anything in the whole game. To be honest, I can't really think of too many clear-cut chances. It was a hard watch. And this is the problem now. you've seen now against Palace, against Liverpool, against Leicester. There's no real plan B for Spurs. It's we're going to try and sit in, try and counter attack, and if they lose that first goal, very difficult for them to get back in the game because their game sort of relies on getting that goal and then sitting back. And you know what I've said before, it's not the prettiest to watch, but if it gets results, then I don't mind too much. Don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting saying get Mourinho out there, because I still think they're still in a decent position in the table. Still thought top four would be the target, even when we were top of the league. I said top four would still be a great season. But the problem Mourinho has now, there's a few fans already on his back again, and it's nothing to do with the Chelsea connection anymore. I think it's the style of play that the fans are so upset with. And this is what I said. If Mourinho's going to play this way, he's going to have to get results. At the moment in the league, they're not getting them results. The last 3 games, only 1 point. And that is concerning because if they were to lose another couple, I think the fans again the pressure would mount on them because I don't think the fans are entirely happy with the football they're playing. They're living with it because of the results. For me, it's not that I enjoy this state of play. When it's one, I can see in certain games it is useful because when you are playing Liverpool and you are playing Chelsea or Man City or Arsenal or all these other big teams, United and stuff, there is a way to go about it. And Mourinho's record before doing this sort of style of play has won him trophies, has won him leagues. But I'm not so sure it's going to win this league. And he's on it day one, make no mistake about it. I don't think there's better teams like Liverpool. They're going to pick up a lot of points. There's no way Spurs will be able to match them playing like this. So again, it was very disappointing, and he's going to have to try and find a way to come around it because if teams sort of work Spurs out now, we're going to see over the next few games. But if teams have worked Spurs out, they're going to say, you know what, we're not really going to attack you at all. We'll sit back and we'll try and sort of counter you, and we'll see what you have. And with Lascelles injured now as well, there's one of your creators out. It's going to be difficult. So I'm sure he'll be working on something, but I think the fans at the moment are probably a bit harshly on his back. But I think I've said this before. It was with same way Arteta when he was getting the results. He won the FA Cup playing very defensive, and that was fine at the time. But once the results started to turn, and you can see the amount of pressure on them at the moment, fans get agitated. I think the one thing that's helping the likes of Mourinho and Arteta is there's no fans actually in the stadium. But I'm obviously speaking from platforms like social media that I'm seeing it, where fans are very, being hostile towards the managers because they're not happy with the state of play. So if the fans were to come back in and this was going on and they weren't getting results, then you'll see it changing very, very quickly. Spurs, it's a slump. They need to snap it out quickly because all of a sudden they're sitting in 6th or 7th from the table. I know they're only 2 points off second. There's a lot of sort of teams you could throw a blanket around them. Their fixtures now over the next 4 or 5 games are very favourable. And I think a few of them teams around them have to play each other. So there's every chance Spurs get a couple of positive results now in the next few games. They're going to be back up to second or third in the league. And that'll be the target, finish within that top 4. Spurs obviously had a good one in the cup in midweek. I know it was Stoke away, but it was going to be a difficult game. I think they conceded the least amount of goals of any team in England this season. Most clean sheets. It was going to be difficult. They got the 1, so they're on the semi-final now, and they've got Brentford in the cup. The 2 Manchester teams have drew each other. That's a fantastic draw for Spurs. Again, it won't be easy. Brentford are playing really well in the Championship. As somebody said the start of the season, how you have a home game against Brentford to take up final, then you'd have been very, very happy with that. And I do expect Spurs to get to the final. And again, Mourinho going to the final against United or Man City, assuming Spurs get there, and you'll be confident because he's been there before, big finals, and that is the type of game where his style of play does tend to shine through. They'll try and do a number in one of them teams, and over one game, it can definitely work. Just in the league, I'm just not sure if he is trying to win the league with Spurs this year. It's definitely not going to last. You can't win 38 the league. You can't play that over 38 games for me and win a league anymore. So it'll be interesting to see now if he can bounce back this weekend against Wolves. I'll get into that in the predictions that are on. But it's a must-win game for me in the league. I don't think we can afford another defeat if we're going to try and stay up there and touching distance with like United and stuff, in case Liverpool do have a slump. And it becomes a much more open league again. So moving on to the next part of the show, it's another defeat for Arsenal against Everton, and it is starting to look like the job is too big for Mikel Arteta at the moment. He looks lost on the touchline, and just every time a goal goes in, he just sort of seems like he's no real plan B as well to fix it or try. And if you look at his interview the other day, I think it was after the Everton game, he come on about stats. and people are calling him percentage poolist now, which is quite which is quite unfair. But this is the type of things that goes on. He's a young and inexperienced manager, and he comes out with these stats after a game about. I think he must have been watching these this expected goals ratio, where they sort of it's where you have possession and chances, and they try and they factor all on how many goals you would have expected to score in 9 games. I think against Spurs, they were expected to score more than Spurs. Against Burnley, score more than Burnley, and score more against Everton. They have more possession, more shots, but not real clear-cut chances. If you look at the chances in these games, they're just half chances, and they're crossing the ball into the box, and they're not. There's no real creativity in the team, and that's a big issue. They've left Ozil out, and this is the thing. A lot of these big decisions have backfired. Leaving Ozil out, leaving Saliba out, two massive key players. Key areas in the squad. There's no creativity. They're letting in loads of goals now again, and it's not looking good for him. I have to say. It's one of them ones. Young manager, you do not want to see him sacked, but you feel these next 3 games are crucial now. Over Christmas, they've got Chelsea now on Boxing Day at home. That'll be a very difficult game. They've got Brighton away and West Brom away. 2 places that'll be very tough to go to. But they're teams that are sitting around where Arsenal are, and if they really lose them, or even lose one of them, it's going to drag them down and plummet the other team up. And it would almost drag them down in the bottom 3, and that would be, I think that would be it. I don't think Arsenal will let it run on any longer. There's clear from the board that they do like Arteta and they do want to back him, but there will come a point where they think, well, this can't run on any longer, because we could be in a serious situation here coming next. If we let this run on our 6 or 7 games, we're in a really serious situation. You look at Sam Allardyce. He's actually said Arsenal are one of our rivals for relegation, and he said they're in relegation form, and they are. They haven't won a game, or so they've only won 1 game in the got 10 in the league, and they've only got 2 points to the last 7 games or something like that. So very, very, very poor run of form. It's not something you expect with Arsenal. You only have to look around Europe at the moment. PSG sacked Thomas Tuchel, Dortmund sacked their manager, and they're sitting up around the top of their leagues. So it's very fortunate in a way that it's been allowed to carry on. But it's just how long they'll give it. For me, I think these next 3 games will be crucial. He's going to need at least one of them. I think if he's going to try and get to January and try and rebuild the squad. A lot of Arsenal fans have been saying that we'll get the players in January, give them more time, but not easy to get players in January. No guarantee they'll want to come as well. Look on Arsenal are in the table, and you can't just sign anybody. You have to try and get the right players that's going to improve your squad. Plus, Arsenal have already over their maximum squad limit, so they're going to have to try and sell players first. And you've only got all the stadium in 4 weeks, so it's going to be very difficult to get all that done. It's more of a summer sort of rebuilding job. And they need to try and prioritise here and now, and that is at least trying to get up to the table in the league, and try and make a push for all them European places if they can turn this form around. So the month of summer seems like a long time away for Arsenal. They need to fix it right now, and I don't think if these results don't improve next 3 games, I don't think Arteta will see the summer, to be honest. For me, they are at the moment on a relegation battle. You'd have to say it. I was chatting to my mate Stephen there. He was obviously on the show a couple of months ago. They've done the Spurs Arsenal preview, and he's actually, I was texting him, about the Chelsea game on Boxing Day, and he actually said it's after the last game against Everton, he isn't actually watching the game anymore, and that's how bad it's got. He's not watching it because he can't. He said it's a hard watch. He can't do it anymore. He's going to ruin his Christmas. So he's going to fill out the game for a live score or some sort of app, because you just can't seem barely watch it anymore, and that's how bad it's got. I can't remember. Well, we've been in some tight spots as well, Spurs fans, but they go as far as not wanting to watch your own team. Tells you everything that's wrong with Arsenal at the moment. They need to turn it around quick, and time is running out. You can't let it run on too much longer. One thing I missed as well with the Spurs chat was I was out yesterday for dinner, and a couple of people have asked me about Dele Alli's or what do you think about Mourinho's comments with Dele Alli. I'm just going to share the screen here for you, because anyone that hasn't seen it, he actually said that the goal that Stoke scored, and I thought Dele Alli had a really good game. Start of the second half, Spurs sort of didn't play that well. They lost a goal, and Dele Alli was took off, so he was almost scapegoated. Now, I think the Stoke goalie gave the ball away, but that can happen. Players do give the ball away, and it can lead to a goal. There's loads of other things after it. But Mourinho said that Dele Alli was in the team to create problems for Stoke, not create problems for his own team. And I can see everything like Jamie O'Hara said. Josie needs to stop digging out Dele in the press. He's killing his confidence. Now, people have been asking me what I think about these comments. And I'll be totally honest. I actually think it was a joke. What he said. Very, very harsh treatment because I thought Dele had a really, really good game. Apart from Harry Winks, I thought he was probably our best player. Now, Dele for me, I've always been a big fan of him. I think he is a victim of his own success. You look at them first few seasons at Spurs, he was excellent. Drew a lot of comparisons to players. He was talked about as England's big next thing. And he's obviously had a bit of a slump now over the last couple of years. But I can definitely see there's still a player in him. It's about getting the right coach for him and getting the right team for him. And at the moment, I don't think the style or the coach suits him. So it's looking like he probably will be moving on, which is going to be very disappointing for me as a Spurs fan and other Spurs fans who have backed him. And I do think he will go to someone else and he'll shine. But I just don't know. I don't know why Mourinho's going out of his way. Against Leicester, there was a couple of players made mistakes. He didn't really criticise anyone. It just seems like again he's criticising Dele whenever he does something wrong and maybe not doing it with our players. And you've seen this before at United with Shaw, and there's other players at Chelsea and Madrid. This is where dressing room and rest starts. Now, probably the thing when it comes to Dele, he's probably not one of the key players now in the team anymore. He is sort of been on the fringes, but if he starts going down the show with like first team players, if he falls out with Harry Kane or he falls out with Lloris or he falls out with Son, you're going to see similar situations that happen at United. So he needs to be careful, very, very careful. Now, I'm obviously not sure what kind of influence Dele's got in the dressing room, but just from watching the Amazon documentary, he is very likable, I think, and a lot of the players do like him. So they'll probably not be happy with the treatment in the media. I think if you've got a problem with Dele, say to him, but not after the game on TV, sort of humiliate the player. Plus, I don't think he played that badly. I thought he played well. I made one mistake in the game, and I thought Bale was poor. No real criticism of Bale, so it's as if he thinks he can pick and choose who he can get away with doing it. It'll be interesting to see if it backfires, but it is looking like Dele will be moving on unless something drastic happens in the next few weeks. I'm not sure what way to work in January if they loan him out, but most certainly in the summer I can see him moving on. And it will be one where Spurs fans will be disappointed because it was only a few years ago he was talked about as one of England's biggest talents. Now it'll be interesting. Poch, it looks uncertainty. Now there's going to be the next PSG manager. It's only a matter of time before it's announced. So we've obviously seen PSG linked with Dele Alli in the summer. And obviously Poch was a big fan of Dele at Spurs. And it looks like that could be a move for Dele. He could go out there and reignite his career. But just on the Poch one, it's one of them ones now where no one really seen it coming, just come out of nowhere. Tuchel sacked and Poch possibly going there. But if you look at Arsenal, where possibly he was linked with Arsenal, he was linked with Manchester United. I think a lot of their fans, not that they certainly wanted him, but he was someone that they would have probably took if their managers get sacked. Now, I think more case for United, where I think a lot of United fans that are behind Ollie were thinking, well, if it doesn't work out, Poch is in the background, we'll get Poch. That's looking like it's not going to happen now. So if things were to go wrong with Ollie, they have to go somewhere else. And Poch is sort of, I'm actually surprised because I honestly thought Poch would be, he's not sure, would have been Manchester United. I think it was almost a case of he needed Ollie to get sacked. And all his forms turned around really well, and United are going well at the moment. So I don't think anything's going to happen in the next while unless United, fall off the wheel here in the next couple of weeks. And Ollie was get sacked then, but I don't see it happening. I think PSG is going to announce his Pochettino in the next couple of days. So just on it, I think it's a really good appointment for PSG. It's a really, really good fit for Poch. I think he's obviously got this trophy drought hanging over his head. You go to PSG, you're guaranteed to win trophies. They'll be favourites for the league, favourites for the cups. Obviously, he'll be judged on how they do in the Champions League. But probably teams now be looking at PSG differently because Poch is going in there. Like Barcelona in the next round, and you would fancy them. Barcelona haven't been playing well. New manager bounce, Poch as well. I rate him as a manager. So it'd be great to see him on there. And if he does well, you've seen Rodgers when he went to Celtic, done really, really well. Come on to Leicester now, he's doing really, really well. And he's rebuilt his reputation after Liverpool. You could see the same sort of thing happening here. Poch goes to PSG, does really, really well. He could rebuild his reputation in Europe and be sort of considered as a top replacement for like if Klopp moved on or Guardiola moved on. he could be someone that these teams will be looking at if he does really well, PSG. So, hey, going to move on to Premier League predictions. But there's a lot of topics going on this week, so just keep an eye out for stuff and the news over Christmas. But first game on Boxing Day is Leicester against Man United, an absolute cracker to get it started. Difficult, as I said, Leicester are very inconsistent. Or 1 week they're sweeping teams aside, and then they're getting bit the next. Especially away from home, they seem to be playing really, really well. At home, not so well. They've lost 4 or 5 games at home. United's away form is brilliant. I think they've won every single game this season, and they've been on a run of, like, I think it's 11 or 12 away ones, so they're flying away from home. And for that reason, I think they're going to win this game 2-1. And that would be a statement if they go there and win as well. 3 o'clock, 2 games. Villa play Palace. This is on BBC One, I think. So anyone that's not got Sky or BT, there will be a game to watch on Boxing Day on terrestrial TV, BBC One. 3 o'clock, Villa versus Palace. Should be a good game as well. As you said, Palace were very open against Liverpool. I'm not sure if they might change that now because they've conceded 7 goals. They might try and tighten up. Villa are playing really, really well. Again, sometimes they don't take their chances and don't finish teams off. But they have 2 games in hand, and if they won their 2 games in hand, they'd be sitting second in the league. So they're doing really, really well compared to a team that was just about stayed up last year. Grealish is playing really, really well. The additions from the summer, like Watkins and Barkley, have been really, really, really good. I think Barkley might have come back from injury now as well. But I do think they'll win this one at home. They haven't been winning too many games at home this year, but I think they'll win this one. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Villa 1. 3 o'clock as well. This is on Sky Sports. Fulham against Southampton. Now, I don't know if anyone's seen it. Scott Parker's actually got someone in his family that's got coronavirus, so he'll not be in the dugout for this game and possibly the next couple of games. So that could be a negative impact for Fulham. And I know David Moyes was away from West Ham and they actually had some good results, but it just seems like Fulham, they were in a really good run there in terms of form, getting results, wins and draws. So it'll be a big bloody lose, Parker. But Southampton, very up and down team at the moment as well. Lost to Man City, but they played well. Only lost 1-0 and had their chances again. Obviously, injury Danny Ings is going to be concerning, but they did cope well with him the last time. But I think Scott Parker missing is going to be a big blow for Fulham, and that's why I'm going to tip Southampton for a 2-0 away win and to get them back on track as well. 5:30, probably the big game of the fixtures. Is Arsenal against Chelsea. Now, this is a massive, massive game for Arteta and Arsenal. I think they're going to have to try and get a result somewhere in this game. I think an hour defeat puts them under real pressure coming them 2 sort of games against West Brom and before that Brighton. So it's almost like a free swing because no one's expecting to get a result. But Chelsea have only won 5 away games in 2020, so they're not having that good away from home, and there's no guarantee they're going to go and win this one. Very difficult to call. I actually fancy Arsenal to get a result. They have to. These results can't keep going on. I think at home Chelsea will suit them. Chelsea will come on to them. Arteta can go back to his negative sort of counter-attacking system, and it might work. I don't know if Aubameyang's going to still be injured. I think he might be, but they're going to have to try and find a way to win this game. And it's hard to call it. I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go 1-1 draw. Probably our Arsenal fans will take it. But I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw because Chelsea's form's not that great away from home. And Arsenal, you think you have to try and get a result in this game. So 1-1. Moving on, 8 o'clock, 2 games. Man City against Newcastle. Man City, great one away from Southampton last week. I have to say, really, really good at the back as well. They have been a lot better at the back this year. I know they had a couple of games they weren't that good, but most of the time they have been very, very good. I think Pep has reined them in slightly when they go away from home. They're not as open. And they've got 12 clean sheets this season. I think that's the most by any team from England in all competitions. So doing really, really well at the back. Diaz has made a big impact. And again, Newcastle are really, really struggling at the moment. They've lost them without a couple midweek against Brentford as well. So that was their big chance to get the semi-final. And their Championship team didn't really turn up. Played very poorly. There's a lot of pressure on Steve Bruce at the moment. Fans aren't happy with the style of play. As I said before, when you're playing this sort of negative style of play, you have to get results. And when the results aren't going your way, the pressure does mount from fans on the manager. And I don't think it's going to get any better here. I think away to Man City, it's a nightmare game for them. City are going to have to be clinical, though. They've not been taking their chances at home in these games. You've seen the last time against West Brom, 1-1 draw, missed a lot of chances, but I do think this time they will find ways to score. I'm going to go for a 3-0 Man City 1. Moving on, 8 o'clock also, Sheffield United against Everton. I'm looking forward to probably watch this one, because it should be a very competitive game. Everton away from home probably don't pick up as many points as they do at home, but it'll still be difficult. It'll still be a very difficult game going to Sheffield, despite the fact they've only got 2 points. A lot of their games have been tight and close fought games. I did say against Brighton, I thought they might have got a result, and they did get a draw. They're only a few minutes away from winning the game, but a red card let them down. They don't get that red card, they probably won the game. So again, they just can't catch a break at the moment. And Everton, they were playing really, really well there in the league. Very, very poor in midweek against Man United. I thought Man United were very, very good in that game. And in the first 20, 25 minutes, they could have blew Everton away. And Everton are very hot and cold. You just don't know what you're going to get. I think this is going to be an hour tight game. And the way things are going with Sheffield United, they'll probably create a few chances, not take them, and they'll get punished by like Calvert-Lewin at the end. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Everton away one. To put them really back in the mix as well, make it 4 in a row for them. So moving on to Sunday, first game, 12 o'clock, Leeds take on Burnley. It'll be difficult because Leeds will just dominate the game possession-wise. Burnley will sit back, rely on possibly Leeds missing a couple of chances and then trying to maybe punish them with a set piece. And Burnley have done it this year, they have 3 teams. Leeds will be looking to bounce back from that United game. They get beat 6-2, and I'm going to back them to do it. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Leeds 1. So 2 o'clock, West Ham against Brighton. Don't think this will be a classic. West Ham, very, very poor against Chelsea. Could be 3-0, and Chelsea didn't play that well. West Ham just doesn't seem to be the races. Created a couple of half chances, but nothing really great significance. And they need to get back to, they've had a wee bit of a slump after a good start to the season. Brighton, that was a big opportunity to get 3 points at home. They've only won 1 game at home all season, so that was a really big chance to get that second one against Sheffield United. And they played against 10 men for the whole second half, to be honest. So very, very poor. They do create chances, but something mustn't be right at times. And for that reason, I'm going to go for a tight 1-0 West Ham 1. I don't think it'll be a great watch. Moving on, 4:30, Liverpool against West Brom. Now, Liverpool absolutely flying at home. We know this record they have going back 3 or 4 seasons when they last lost their last game. Funny enough, it was Crystal Palace, but the manager was Sam Allardyce, and that's who's going to be managing West Brom on Sunday. On his first game back at West Brom, he lost 3-0 to Aston Villa, so it was a very, very poor performance, and they got red card, made it very, very difficult. And I think already West Brom, so he's seeing what he's going to have to do to keep him up. It's a huge task. I can't see them getting anything here. It'll probably be just Big Sam will try and keep the score down. I think Liverpool won this pretty comfortably. I'm going to go for a 3-0 Liverpool 1. And the final game of the weekend, it's 7:15, Wolves against Spurs. This probably won't be a classic and won't be a great watch. Wolves have gone from being entertainers to being quite boring. They're very defensive. I think obviously they've lost Jota, the Liverpool, and they've lost Jimenez now to injury. So they've lost 2 of that front 3 that they relied on heavily. So they don't score as many goals. So obviously that's why they've maybe become a bit more defensive, a bit harder to beat. They've obviously lost Doherty to Spurs as well, and Doherty was, I think, one of their top goal scorers of the last couple of seasons. I'd like to see him start doing that Spurs. It'll be interesting to see if he comes on for that game on Sunday. Very tight game. I think the first goal will be crucial because both teams will want to try and sit back and dictate the game if they get that goal. But I think Spurs have to try and get back to one-on ways, and I think they might be a bit more expressive in this game because Wolves will not do too much attacking unless they fall behind. You've seen them against Chelsea; they were very, very poor, and then once they fell behind, they were like a different team. So if Spurs do get in front, they're going to try and kill the game. But I do think it's going to be really, really tight, and I'm just going to tap Spurs. I think they've got a bit more quality up front, and that could be the difference. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Spurs 1. So that's us tonight. Obviously a lot on the show. We're going to be back on Monday, looking back at all these results and looking ahead to the week games, as there's loads of games over Christmas, so there's going to be loads of games to talk about. So I'll be back on Monday. So hey, have a great Christmas weekend and enjoy and stay safe. Thanks very much for watching.